Hello again. So we've been talking about the common criteria. Let's wrap up that discussion now. Right. So recall that we've said on several occasions that there are these EAL levels. EAL stands for Evaluation Assurance Level. And what it is really is the person that submits either a protection profile or a security target to be evaluated specifies how rigorously they have conducted their evaluation, or I shouldn't really say it that way. I should say how much evidence they want to put forward that the evaluation is going to succeed. So, for example, at the EAL1 level, basically it's just functionally tested. So they tested their system to show that it implements the security policy, and then they have to give sort of minimal evidence to the certification authority that they've done that. On the other hand, you know, as you go up in level, what you have to do is provide to the certification authority more and more detailed evidence that there actually is this correspondence between the artifact and the policy. So for example, at the very highest level, EAL7, you have to give a formally verified design and also testing. And so this is a very high level of assurance that there's a correspondence between the artifact and the policy. So this sort of summarizes that. Anytime that you produce a software system, you go through these various phases of the implementation. For instance, the requirements phase, functional specification, high-level design, then a low-level design, and finally an implementation. And so how much care and effort did you put into each of those phases? So at EAL1, all of these are informal, and you just have to show that you did it, right? But as you go up in level, you add more and more rigor to the process, to the development process. So for example, at EAL7, the requirements have to be specified in some formal language. You have to show that the functional specification actually meets those requirements by some formal methodology, and so on. The implementation still is informal, though people have tried to do formal stuff at that level as well. Okay, so after you go through the evaluation process, then you get a common criteria certificate from the government or from the certifying agency saying that you've done this, and so you can then advertise your product as being evaluated, say, at EAL4 or whatever. The certificate just says that the evaluation has been done and you've passed it. It indicates really a good faith effort on the certifying authority's part that they have checked your evidence and found it to be adequate for the level and the claims that you're making. It's often the case that when a particular company or something gets one of these certifications, then they tend to overmarket it and say, you know, it means that our system is absolutely secure. It doesn't mean that. It just means that the certifying authority has looked at your evidence. Okay, currently the governments of about 26 different countries recognize the common criteria, and they have mutual recognition of certifications up to a certain level, up to EAL4. And so, for example, if you have a product evaluated to EAL4 in the US, then you can take it to the UK and market it with an EAL4 evaluation. If you're above that level, and you have a certification done, say, in the UK, it won't necessarily be recognized in the US at that compensatory level. Right, so who does these evaluations? Well, above a certain level, they're done by the government, in particular in the US by NSA. But at lower levels, they're done by independent labs, which are certified by the government. The certifying agency in this case is NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology of the US. There happens to be one of these labs called ATSEC in Austin, and they do a number of these evaluations. The testing and the evaluation costs are pretty high. So you can see there EAL2 often costs, you know, up to nearly $200,000 and may take 4 to 6 months, whereas EAL4 may take up to $750,000. And above that, they get very expensive and can cost millions of dollars. Okay, so as we saw in the earlier chart, product at EAL 5, 6, or 7 requires some formal methodology to be used. And you can't reverse engineer the model from the code. And so you need a formal model of security for those things. And those processes, those formal processes, are pretty expensive. They require using an automatic theorem prover or something of that nature. In the U.S., only NSA, the National Security Agency, performs testing at EAL 5 and above. Okay, so what have we said? Well, the evaluation process is designed to show that there's a correspondence between the artifact you're developing and the security model which you're claiming that it implements. Now, there are these various levels of assurance which really have to do with the amount of evidence you provided of this correspondence between these two things. And so EAL 1 is a very low threshold to get over, and EAL 7 is very expensive and very hard to attain. Certification by a country or by a certifying agency really means that the evaluation has been carried out fairly carefully and in good faith, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the product is suitable for any particular goal or that it's secure in any strong sense. And evaluations are often performed by these independent labs which are certified in turn by an organization like NIST in the United States. And they receive a pretty hefty fee for doing these evaluations. Why does a company want to do one of these evaluations? Well, it's basically a marketing tool. And so if you, for example, say that your system has been evaluated to EAL 4, you can use that in your marketing and say that your system is more likely to be secure perhaps than your competitors, which wasn't evaluated. Thank you.